Hello. Good afternoon. How are you?
Not bad. Making plans for the near future and editing, doing stuff. It's been a good day so far.
Ripping. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we got some cool stuff coming up. Um, there's a couple of things up above in the nest, things you're already aware of, but in general, the last session recording is up there from Speaker Cone, and yesterday's writer's block is up there. Pretty good conversation. Bunch of folks on pacing in general, and then
I wish I had been there. I have a lot to say about pacing.
next time,
Yeah,
come and hang out.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
the last thing is Fall of Tartaria, which I feel like I've submitted the audiobook almost 2 weeks ago, so it has to be getting ready to go through approval like at any point. In fact, like one of the other platforms that I submitted to has already approved it, so it's now up on Spotify, but it isn't up on Audible yet. Subsequently, the original video that was based on, is also now up on Amazon Prime. So that's pretty cool. And people have been watching it. I've done zero promotion for it so far, besides kind of this word of mouth of talking about the fact that it is available, or has been approved for availability. But it has to be total strangers finding the thing, because somebody from the UK watched it already. And, I don't know that many people from the UK. So somebody
You're referring to Tartaria?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I could stab a guess as to why. I mean, that Tartaria subject. I think it's very mysterious, and I think a lot of people YouTube search it.
Yeah, they do.
I think people probably want to enrich their knowledge of that concept. So you may have been wise in what you picked as far as the subject, because I think that's what's doing it for you.
Perhaps. Yeah. Can't complain.
No.
The ebook, people are getting the ebook. Can't complain about that. What's up, Heidi? Grab a mic if you want one. Yeah. So, part of titling things in the age of the internet is a little bit of SEO. I'm not going to lie. The title of that, let me get Heidi up here, because she requested. So yeah, I can't lie, using that term, very viable for SEO. I've got another story I'm working on that kind of even doubles down on that line of thinking. And I've been kicking around the title for a while, and I have not necessarily landed on what it will be, but I've got all of the keywords that I want to utilize in the title, and the story arc is generally in place. I've started doing a little bit of the video. I'm just kind of trying to think about well, first off, I need the time to do it, and I don't have the time to do it. I wish that I did, but I don't. But at the same time, I'm not a household name. So I've got to make every effort to make my material easy to find. The Chicago 1893 project, when I titled that, I specifically titled that with all of the keywords that I wanted to have in there, right? World's Fair, for that topic, even too nebulous. So I needed the year, I wanted the city, and I wanted the specific name of that World's Fair, which is the Columbian Exposition. In fact, when I was doing that, somebody else who is, heavy in that topic in space was like, well, you should be calling it this. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not gonna. So, these sorts of things I think are important. again, like, we're artists, we're making these original things that were near and dear to our sensitive hearts. But at the same time, the machines that are cataloging and categorizing our work they don't have endocrine systems. So we have to make sure that if we want to reach the other entities on our planet with endocrine systems, we have to be able to filter our thoughts and our releases through these synthetic intelligences who then pair it back to the other endocrine enabled organisms that might enjoy our work. And so, that's what I do. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want, but that's how I think about it sometimes, not all the time. Relic of the Aztecs, is that SEO optimized? There's a billion things out on the internet about Aztecs. But again, maybe you find it. The more nuanced it is, I think the more sifting people have to do, which is also why like my longest titled books are the marketing ones, because I'm trying to keyword stuff there. No BSing around it. That's what's going on there. Personal branding, content marketing, workbook, all those kind of things are in there. What do you guys want to talk about today? What do you guys have going
on? Just trying to create order out of chaos. My biggest challenge when we're talking about this is just finding time to get all this stuff done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's my biggest challenge.
It's because you spend too much time talking to me,
This is probably part of the problem.
What's going on with the figs?
I put the figs in the freezer, most of them.
Nice.
And I got some other just household things I need to do right now.
Yeah. Well, you're untethered, right?
What's that?
You're untethered, right? You're on mobile. You can go anywhere you want. You're allowed to wander around the house.
Yeah. So I might listen more than I talk.
We'll see.
But yeah, this is true. We will see what I end up doing. Unless you say something I really want to talk about, then I'll drop everything and start talking. But no, we're talking about branding.
Yeah, we are in general. I was going to ask, you said you finished all of your chapters for your audiobook, I think.
For the most part, yes. There's a couple I'm trying to decide what to do with. And I have, I think, 2 more I got to go through on the edit, but I finished the recording. Got to meet with Chris tonight about all the other stuff, the stuff he's doing. I realized that the bulk of the book is actually, I'm reading probably more than half of it.
Nice.
I didn't realize that. But, I mean, he is doing a significant chunk.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, we're getting there. It's a little overwhelming. This is definitely something where if you don't have a spreadsheet, you're going to get lost.
Maybe.
Well, not maybe. I guarantee it. But, I mean, I've 46 chapters, intro, afterward, all this stuff.
It's a lot. It's considerable. I won't lie. That's more chapters than any of my books. Not more chapters than Ricky's books, though, right?
Yeah, Ricky. You're in there with me, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a professional reader, but, I mean, there must be something gratifying, satisfying about doing it, but it's intimidating, the amount of complexity and whatever, I can't take that away from you. I read my chapters like rinky dink on MJ's show, MJ Hunt's Good. And not to get carried away with that, but I'm far along with the edit of Wargate, the first Wargate book. Trying to get to the end of that. And MJ told me about this website, and it's an app also. It's called Royal Road.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that to you a while ago.
I think I heard of that too.
Ricky, I told you about that like a few months back.
It's likely possible, Michael. My memory is like cheesecloth on fire, to be honest with you. Like I really don't have a firm grasp, especially if we had a conversation and I was like doing CAD while I was listening to your show. There's only so many of them neurons that are going to be involved because it's already bifurcated.
It was
That's
in the
my
DMs,
problem.
bud.
Was it really?
Yeah. I was like, dude, this is a perfect site for you because you have these very long books with lots of chapters. It's basically built for you.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie. You were right about that. So was she, and so was another gentleman who she introduced me to, who explained to me like the basic gist of it. And it kind of plugs into what you're saying about this whole thing with Tataria and the Aztecs and stuff, and SEO. It's like your stuff does have to be accessible. Like it has to be searchable. And one of the reasons I like Royal Road so much is because of how it employs these subgenres. Like I don't know half of these things. So I went through the list of them today, just copying them down for my own, the sake of my own neural divergences, so I can keep going back to them and trying to get them committed to memory. And it's like there's so many interesting ways because I mean, that platform has it where you drop your stuff by a schedule. And then there's this rating system, which I find to be very, very fair. It's like a bunch of different ways they rate your stuff. And it's like it's supposed to be big for exposure. Like the community will reach out. There's potential for audiobooks, and it like overall it's good for awareness to boost your sales wherever you are.
Yeah.
So the subgenres are cute. Like I almost feel like reading the list or whatever, but
you can if you want.
It's probably overboard. But it's like, yeah, you're right. My stuff is like lit RPG. And progression they call it, where it's like what I call power gaming. You know, like if you were to analog it to a tabletop RPG. It's like analoging, you know. I mean, it's like power gaming. You're reaching for the next level of reputation and strength for your character. That's like the stuff I write. It's my stuff's a power fantasy. So you're right. I mean that platform, people are hungry for that. So I want to drop 3 books. I don't want to keep yammering, but
no, I love it. No, this is great. I'm glad that you went over there and it's a fit for you.
Yeah, and I doff my cap to you too, sir, as well as to MJ. Whatever can penetrate the density of my skull from time to time it's really appreciated. Paulette's cool. What's up, Paulette?
Hey, what's up? Yeah, if you want to come up, grab a mic. You're more than welcome to come and hang out.
I'm so sorry I haven't been able to get to her poetry spaces because they look great. It's just my schedule has been weird.
Are you doing poetry spaces where you're reading stuff or you're letting people read stuff? DM me, and maybe we can put you into the writing cabal for the spaces hosts and put you in there.
Yeah, that would be very nice for Paulette and for the community because
her
poetry's cool. Yeah.
Paulette, I don't know if you've been up here before. Are you live?
I'm here. Yes.
Hot mic.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get to the mic.
All good. Yeah. Just to round out some of what Ricky's talking about, because I am very happy for you having navigated your way over there. And I think that you're going to find that it's perfect if suited for you, particularly. There's the angle of getting people to migrate over to your Amazon. But then there's also the tying in the Patreon component, which I think, given how prolific a writer you are, and also the fact that you have such a deep back catalog, there's probably a good opportunity inside of that as well for you to take advantage of these different sites and assets to, further build your audience, further advance monetization for your work, and get support from people who love it. That's important for all of us. To the folks that just came in, if you guys want to talk or promote or anything, grab a mic. You're more than welcome to come up and hang out. Paulette, I didn't want to cut you off. I do want to hear more about the poetry space stuff. So, rap about that for a while. These sessions are recorded and I put them out as a podcast. You can look above into the nest. There is a link to the last session as well as yesterday's writer's block, which Heidi and I host.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me hang out. I appreciate it. The poetry space that I host, it's very impromptu. It's called Poetry Pop-Up. So whenever I'm needing a fix to hear other poems, that's what I do. I'll do a poetry. Usually it's on Mondays. This last time I actually did, it was kind of strange. It was a tarot reading, free tarot reading. And I likened it into stories. So the cards tell me stories, and you can apply those stories to your life situation or your question.
I've heard
Certainly
of tarot.
The future. Yeah. So, but those are the two things I kind of play around with out here. And some people are interested, and I appreciate them coming and having some fun.
Absolutely. So, yeah, like I said, DM me about that, and then we'll get you put into the cabal.
All right, thank you.
The other side of it is, I got a follow-up question for you. Is it just you reading, or you let other people read their poetry, or how's it work?
Oh no, it's other people. I want to hear what they've got to say. Nice. Absolutely. And the amount of talent out here is incredible. I'm always blown away.
The talent is ripping. I will say that. I'm a very concise, metered, slow, some would say, writer. Me first. And when I see, Heidi and Ricky have just some massive books, and it is just staggering for me to consider doing something of that depth. I don't know if I have it in me. We'll see, perhaps in time. Hard telling at this date, but I think about things. I have through next year's books into, let's say, into the spring of 2026, I have all of the releases that I have planned, for that period of time. That's not to say that I won't come up with other things or want to write other things, but for me, it's really been about regularity of being able to release material, right? Getting a paperback of something out every year since 2019. I would love to continue doing that. I like doing that. I like doing the writing and the layout and the production and the promotion and offering up my thoughts or the collections or whatever it might be. Having added in the fiction components in the last couple of years and kind of balancing out, those additions with the nonfiction material has been great too. And it's opened up a lot of different avenues for me in terms of creativity and productivity and storytelling, obviously. But, doing that long form material, when I try to start to think that way, I love reading it, right? I like really long books. I don't mind reading them or listening to them. But the gestation period, let's say, for writing it, would be very extensive for me. God, I don't know if I have the skills developed for that craft. Like, let's say in the spring of next year, I intend to release my next fictional short story. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the draft of it. Once I get out my next paperback next month, I'm going to shift gears into that and hammer out the first draft of it, because I only need a little bit more. And I clack the keyboard with some regularity, at least once a month on it, where I try to add a couple of words to the manuscript. That's not good. That's really not how you should make steady progress. It's very incremental progress, but I got these other things I got to work on. I get things I got to do. So, setting the deadline for stuff, I know we're getting into the weeds here a little bit, but setting deadlines for the release of your material and understanding how, like, the promotional aspect that time goes around, like, developing press releases and blog posts and videos and doing other appearances on other programs and stuff like that, where you can dedicate, say, that month or two around that project, where it's not getting convoluted with other things that you're working on or releasing. That allows you to really kind of focus and articulate that message out into, your social presence or your email campaigns, or, getting your website updated. I was a little bit late on that for Tartaria. When I updated my website to make sure that all the links were there, it was like a couple of weeks later, because it was just kind of swarmed with other stuff, bogged down. I think that's all really important, because we do this work and we want people to find it. We want people to read it or listen to it or watch it. And we perhaps, we get too into, like, well, I'm finished with that, and now I'm moving on to my next thing. My next thing that I'm working on is the thing that's most cherished to me, most valuable, that process of working on these new things, as opposed to the landing it, driving it around the bases and getting it home for readers or viewers or listeners, people that want to appreciate your work. And that's equally as important. So for me at least, and you guys can take this as you will, I try to map out my schedule so that I know that I'm going to have these things consistently being made available, and that that I'm doing hopefully enough to inform people of their availability. Kind of raving there, perhaps, for a while.
No, but I dig it. I think it's definitely applicable to me. Like, all I want to do is basically write chapters, and I also work full time. So my time is definitely, like, all over the place and at a premium. But I have to get more focused on the broadcast of the whole thing for the sake of the muse. A lot of why I do this is for the sacred force of transcendence, and whatever inspires me. I feel that there should be some reciprocity, and it's important to honor that. That's why I try to get all my stuff out. But it's like, I think a platform like Royal Road is going to be great for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to put 3 books up on there next year. I mean, sooner than that, but I got to get covers and I got to go through them again.
Why don't you start with your existing catalog?
Yeah, well, that's what I plan on doing. I want to do the first Wargate book. I wrote a sci-fi book with my nephew called Chirum 6, Chronicles of Chirum 6. I want to put that up there, and I want to see I got to look at the IP and make sure that they don't have anything weird or restrictive. But I also want to do an Afternities book. I want to put up Princes of Turmoil, which is a sequel to the Masroths. The third Masroth should be going up pretty soon. Like, I'm hoping by the end of the year. And there's a 4th one. So there would be 5 of those, one on, and that's really the thing, like you're saying, with the SEO and stuff, but it's also, okay, there's Richard Okus on Patreon. There's Richard Okus on Royal Road. There's Richard Olcus on Amazon, Twitter. Like the more places I am, the better the algorithm loves me. Isn't that true?
To a degree. So here's where I think a little more broadly than in regards to depth, right? So let's speak on depth first. There are other Michael Finneys out in the world who have been in their career for a long time, one of which is a magician. The other is a news broadcaster out by you, Heidi, actually, by San Francisco. Their careers, the magician owned the original MichaelFinney.com, and the broadcaster released some books. Whenever I put out my books on Amazon and then I go over to Goodreads, they're always assigned to him first. So I have to go and ask them to kindly move those off of him and put them onto me. That is an issue, right? I am going to be fighting a long-term battle of depth in regards to my name with them. In that sense, the machines prefer the broadcaster, right? Now, that said, let's speak on width, right? This is where my battle against the machines for the title of top Michael Finney begins to crystallize. Is you'll look at these projects that I do for long periods of time. Chicago 1893, national parks, the marketing and branding stuff. These become a new constellation around, this Michael Finney, right? So if you are searching for those terms, there becomes likelihood that you discover those projects. You don't have to care about me. Okay. And that is important because we already know that caring about me doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to find me on the internet. So I have to find these more, these flatter ways to extend myself over the map, like a cartographer, as opposed to a geologist taking away the layers. I'm going to put my layer where everybody is, as opposed to, trying to make it close to the surface. If I have lots of broad material, some of it will be close to the surface in some cases, and therefore you will then find the Michael Finney that I want you to find, as opposed to the others. Does that make some sense?
Yes, well said. Besides, I think it's very well articulated, because I now I get it. Like, some people are going to search single-mindedly. Those are like geologists. They're going to go dig deep. But you're talking about like topographic contours and interpolations of where is my place and how fast. I got to make sure it's me. I got to make sure that it's related to what I'm doing. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's well said.
And so that's where I come back around to making sure that like the keywords for these projects are in the title, because lots of people love the Columbian Exposition. Most of them who buy the book or watch the documentary do not care about me in any sense, and that's perfectly fine. I'm happy for them to discover a new thing about a topic that they are interested in, and I'm happy to have delivered it to them. If then after that, they are algorithmically served other components of my constellation, that's a potential benefit. Maybe they want to learn about marketing or branding. Maybe they want to learn about national parks. maybe they're just looking for something to read in terms of fiction. And algorithmically, they might be served more of my material because they have engaged with any of my material. Whatever beachhead they landed on, they're going to look, left and right and realize, oh, his beach is, there's more down that way and there's more down that way. That I think is important for all of us in this indie conversation of being a writer, being an author, being a producer, getting our work out there to be found. And, we do this for us first, but as soon as you put it out there for the world, you want people to recognize your, your passion, your excitement for what you're doing, and to hopefully enjoy it as well, recommend it to their friends, those kind of things. Paulette, have you released any books of your poetry?
No, I sure haven't. I'm not quite sure if that's something that I should do or how to do it.
Why not? You absolutely should.
I appreciate that. I don't know how to go about pulling a collection together. I don't know that there's really a single thread that goes through my poetry, so I feel like I have to kind of.
The thread is you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Ricky, you got your hand raised. You don't have to do that here.
Well, I have a poetry book out called Twilight Cricket. It's on Amazon. It's put together from a bunch of different poetry books that I had previously published in different places, going all the way back to 2004 when I did it on Cafe Press. So there's something for ancient history for you, speaking of geology and deep time. But what I would do is I would get poets aren't necessarily organized, but if you have any concept of when you wrote these things, generally speaking, when I put together a collection, sometimes it's on a random basis, but most of the time they're put in together by like the year they were written. Like early stuff is like first and later stuff comes later. Like if you buy a complete Ginsberg, for example, that's generally speaking how it is. Like his early stuff is earlier, his later stuff is later. And I think that's kind of the way it is with most collections. And it all depends on, are you doing a pamphlet? Or are you putting out a big coffee table tome for poetry lovers? Like, those are questions you have to ask yourself. And it's also volume of material. I don't know how prolific you are as a poet, which is something that'd be great to hear, to talk about. If not on this show, then on another. But that once you start talking about it in those terms, Paulette, you should have a much better grasp of what you want to do with the project. And most poets, especially the worthy ones, which you are, most poets I meet, they seem to have no game plan for print, like for their poetry. Like you have, I got one of your books offline. It's very nice. It looks lovely. It reads lovely. So why on earth wouldn't you do that with your poetry? Please. Hopefully this has been helpful.
Definitely. I thought that there was a certain way that I would have to come to approach putting my collection together, but it sounds like there's a lot of different ways that somebody could approach that. Right now, my focus is getting my short stories and poetry into lit mags. So that's been my focus for now. And I'm thinking on down the line, maybe to do some of the poetry from those poems that did well.
Yeah, I dig it. Here's the thing too. I'm going to touch on 2 points. Put your collections together however you want, however it makes sense to you. you might do it in a chronological way. What's up, Gonzalo? Grab a mic if you want. Or you might do it in a topical way, or you might do it in some kind of meta narrative way where you are taking people through what you want to convey as a story, some emotional arc through the course of your poems. Getting back to gathering things up into a collection that has some sense to it. So like volume 1 of my national park series, 9 parks in volume 1. You know how I chose the 9 parks that are in volume 1? They were the most done parks that I could put into volume 1 when I was trying to release my second book. That was the deciding factor. They were the most in shape editorially, and so they became volume 1. Second point here, I've got a manuscript I've been sitting on for 5 years, actually, that is kind of a musical memoir, right? It is part lyrics to songs that I wrote over the years with different bands, and then also partially a sort of, like I said, memoir of the experiences I had living and working with those bands at the time. So I haven't had time to get back to it. I'm doing this other stuff. Will it come out at some point? Yeah, probably, almost certainly. It is basically just a matter of, can I get this stuff in a decent shape when something else isn't more pressing or necessary to get out. It's just sitting on the shelf. It's not that long. How long will it end up being? Well, I don't know. I would like to have pictures and illustrations lay out the poetic material, the lyrics, in a way that makes sense and is nice, and also then have a decent narrative arc for the memoir components. And that's just it. Like, I've tweeted this out before, but you can do anything you want in a book. Make the book work for you, right? And this is, I think, perhaps maybe where your apprehension about, like, well, how do I gather these things together? And it's like, well, whatever way makes the most sense to you and makes you feel good about it. Maybe that's chronological. Maybe you are really trying to show your developmental arc as a poet over the years. Maybe that is the most sensible, logical, and beautiful way to do that. Maybe there's another way. Maybe you have photography that goes along with that, that you took during those periods of time, and you didn't want to incorporate some of that. Or maybe just for certain things where you wrote about a location or a time or a experience or a person, and that makes sense to include there. That's certainly in the first 2 volumes of the national parks material. That happens. There's some parks that I went to where I don't write about the parks, to be honest with you. There's a lot of photography there, and then there's just these poetic musings that attend the pictures, and that satisfies me, right? If other people like that, cool. That's real cool. But first, for us, when we're making these things, we need to enjoy that process and be satisfied with the outcome of that, which is to say that, the video I'll put out in the next couple of weeks here is one of those parks where I had photography and kind of wrote these poetic stanzas that go along with it, turned that into a video in the past, did some voiceover with it, and it's a little artistic short film, short video, whatever, kind of reborn through AI. And that's just it. Like, we don't have to be these one note creatives. You know, we can explore ourselves through all of these different mediums. And sometimes we're words, sometimes we're pictures, sometimes we're music, sometimes we're videos, sometimes we're XYZ. You know, I don't want to do the same stuff all the time. You know I want to write, but I don't always feel like I need to write like journalistically or in nonfiction even, or fiction all the time. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And that's what I think everybody should be doing. If it seems like a chore, gosh, what a drag, no?
I agree with you very much in terms of do what you enjoy, and in different media. I'm also very into different genres. So I'll do some fantasy, I'll do a children's book, I'll do paranormal. So I love being able to step into those different worlds and sometimes combining them a little bit. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you should be able to do all these different things. I feel like, hey, if you have a hit, you know, and people want a sequel, that's fantastic. You know, give them that sequel. But perhaps do it on your timeline. That's not to say that you should take as long as some people do. And perhaps, you know, you shouldn't rush it out at the same rate that others do. You want to keep people kind of paying attention to what you're doing. And again, like, we are these niche creatives. We are these very, you know, indie, underground, whatever terms you want to use, you know, they are us. And we are trying to trudge uphill as it is right now. If we get some ideal opportunity where all of a sudden we emerge into the collective consciousness of the literati or the readership or something, that's fantastic. I would love to see any one of us hit a home run, you know, and become an established member of whatever comes next. Great, you know, if you can make CAD drawings until that happens, wouldn't it be fantastic to flip things around and say, you know, I'm going to write most of the time, and occasionally I'll do CAD drawings because I want to do that. I like doing that. Maybe I don't know. It could be the case, but that's just it too. You know, whenever things begin to feel like a burden, feel like a chore, feel too much like work, then, you know, I think our minds wander and we look for some channel to express who we really believe and perceive ourselves to be. Scott, what's up? How is it going? Grab a mic if you like. This is an open stage. We are just hanging out. You know, promote if you want. Ask questions if you want. We're pretty topical, right? We're writing books, being an author, being a part of the scene, I suppose. Talking technicals in some cases. But, you know, nothing's really off the table. Happy to go wherever you guys want the conversation to go. It is your time.
I want to just say thank you for having this type of space. For a long time, well, I wasn't on Twitter or X, and I was writing, I felt in a silo by myself. I wasn't able to share experiences or have someone to know how it was to be in the trenches. And so these kind of spaces and these topics and these conversations are so enriching to me, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, you know, I don't want to be, I don't want it to be thought that I'm saying any particular thing in regards to the very topically focused spaces that other folks here in this space currently host, including even myself as a co-host. I love all those spaces. I think it's fantastic that everybody kind of drills down into what they want to do with their space. This is what I like to do, you know, and that's why I still do this every 2 weeks, because I like these conversations that is like, you know, kind of what we're going to talk about in terms of like, yeah, it's going to be about writing. It's going to be about books, media, marketing, that kind of stuff around those things. But the conversation should go wherever. It should be free form, you know, here at least. And that's not to say that everybody's conversation should be free form. They need to do what they need to do. And obviously I appreciate those things, doing those things, because I go to them and I use them that way as well. And luckily, you know, we've got folks that like to keep their torch lit as the torch bearers of reading or workshopping or topical exploration, whatever it might be, you know, that it's very cool that there's enough of this going on that, you know, on any given day or every other week or whatever, you find a place to do it. You know, shout out to Gonzalez, shout out to Ricky, shout out to Heidi, you know, you guys rip. You're doing it.
Hey, Michael.
Heidi.
Do you ever talk about how to do the SEOs better?
Do I ever talk about that, or do I want to talk about it?
Would you like to talk about it?
I would like to.
I'm just curious because, well, would you talk about it? How do I ask this question?
Would you like me to talk about it now?
I would like you to talk about it now. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm just curious about how to know if you're just how to go about that process effectively. That would be my question. I just want to hear it from somebody.
Yeah. So this is part of it, right? I don't talk specifically about this too much, but I have worked in marketing and media and advertising for a long time. When you're dealing with the web, you're now dealing with two audiences. You're dealing with these flesh and blood, organic, carbon-based life forms here on this stage who have desires and, you know, again, the endocrine system. It's big. It's important. But you have this other audience of these synthetic intelligences of transistors and integrated circuits. And they are augmented with machine intelligence, machine learning, dare we say, automated intelligences, artificial intelligences, augmented intelligences when we work together. And those two audiences, you want to think about them both in tandem. And where it really starts, because again, like all of this stuff is in the marketing books, right? Where it's very much like, you know, lockstep, chapter by chapter, kind of walking through a lot of this stuff. The first part of it is getting a domain. Number one, you know, and you can get domains for whatever you want. And you kind of want to think about keywords in that regard. So like I mentioned earlier, the magician owns michaelfinney.com. I own michael-finney.com, right? So that's kind of the first aspect of this stuff. And inside of that, right, I own a collection of domains, but I also have hosting. So I, put my stuff up on there. Some of the sites, like my site, is very stripped down. I want it to be absolutely bare bones. I mean, like the 1990s internet. That's what I wanted it to be in terms of experience. I like it. I made it responsive. So if you are looking at it on a tablet or a desktop, laptop, or phone, it adjusts to those dimensions. That's enough. That's cool. But there's no JavaScript, there's no logging in, there's no data collection. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want you to have to interface with any of that stuff. Now, your browser is doing all that stuff. I got no control there. That's on you and them. But me, as this entity, you can't give me your email there. You can't give me your credit card information there. I don't want it. And that's fine. It serves as a nexus point to these point of sale locations across the web, or, social networks where we can engage in dialogue like this Twitter space. Also, there are, embedded videos. All of it's HTML. I don't even think I use CSS on that one. Just the absolute most stripped down images, embedded video through HTML, and the links to the places where I want you to either connect with me or buy something, or engage with the media as it is, like the video stuff or whatever, or podcasts. Now let's kind of go down another level from that, right? Chicago 1893, it has its own website, right? And it does the exact same thing, but it's more narrowed. It's only for that project. So, Chicago1893.com, right? Simple, stripped down. Now, inside of those websites, there are terms that are getting used repeatedly. Obviously, for my website, it's all the projects, right? I want to put all those words in there as text, as alt text on images. Now, here's where another level of SEO comes in, and a lot of people don't do this very thoroughly. But if you were to right-click on the images on my website, and you look at the names of the images on my website, you will notice 4 to 5 keywords embedded into the name of the image on the website, right? So they'll say Finney Chicago 1893, or it'll say like Finney -Chicago -1893 Amazon paperback, something like that, to that effect. And I do that for all those images. And I do that for the alt text that goes with those images, because the machines, they love the keywords. And that's, lesson 2 of the SEO piece, right? Now, if you are wanting to really compete with your listing, you need to be publishing regularly. Now, I don't use those websites as blogs for me personally. I have my business site where I do some blogging, need to do more, but I post, my personal editorial blog article content on Substack or Medium. I probably should put it on my website, but I choose to not, because I'm trying to optimize around a social presence. All of those social presences drive back to the website, drive back out to the other products and, things that are out there available, or other social networks where you can have a more immediate dialogue. So then that becomes, again, like another step. And when you begin to talk about blogging, again, you can embed images. So you're getting back to talking about getting keywords into those images, into the alt description attached to the images. When you're doing backlinks, and this is a two-way street. When you're driving out to an external website, that's a link to somewhere else. That could be to one of your own locations or a third party. Same thing works when other people are linking to you. Those backlinks count for SEO. Like if they are linking to your blog post or to your website or whatever it might be, that's all getting indexed. How many websites are pointing at any other website or page of a website? These indexing engines are cataloging and categorizing and evaluating the number of backlinks and the quality of the sources of those backlinks. So that stuff all matters. When we start to get into like metadata, keywords attached to your index file and all these other things, they all matter too. But like there's a hierarchy of SEO practices that you kind of want to follow along with to dial in on the best results. And again, you know, publishing regularly, guest blogging as well, having a social presence that's pointing back at, you know, your own domain or, you know, wherever it is that you want people to land for whatever purpose you want them to land and do. We talk about the term call to action, you know, relevant here. Often, let's put it in context. We want people to get our books, right? So like make it as simple as possible for them. Like don't expect them to click more than once, right? Don't ask them to click more than once. Put it right there, right? This is so. I'm gonna put this in the context of Twitter. When I see people post something and then they're like, "Oh, you can go find the link in the post that follows this." Go look at the reach of those two posts. These people think that they're doing something smart and they're not. If you're a huge profile, you can do this. If you're, you know, on the level we're on, you cannot do this because you're getting a tenth of the reach on that second post, and you're asking people to click into your main tweet and then get to that next tweet and then click on the link. You're asking way too much. Put that stuff right up front. Don't worry about like, oh, I'm only getting half of the reach I would because there's a link here. Well, half of the natural reach is better than a tenth of the natural reach. So I don't understand why this is such a conflicted or confusing practice for some people to do. And I see it constantly, and it's just an absolutely absurd thing to do. You know, great. Okay. You had 10 likes on your first post, but you had 1/10 of the reach on the post you actually wanted people to engage with. What is the net gain there? That doesn't seem like a net gain to me at all. At any rate, you know, happy to keep raving and ranting if you guys want to. If there are people that want to come up and talk, you know, you guys have been listening or hanging out for a while, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, you know, it's just me and Paulette. If Paulette has any final thoughts, or if, you know, somebody else requests to come up, let's talk about that. Otherwise, I usually go for an hour, and we've been doing it for an hour. You know, fairly typical schedule here. Paulette, what are you thinking?
For me personally, I've been inspired, and I think I'm going to take a look at my poetry and start putting it together the way I want it to be. So thank you all for that inspiration.
Hold on. Scott's coming up. We got him coming up. Hey, what's up? You're on stage. Welcome to it. How are you doing? What are you up to?
Sorry, was that me?
That is you. We're talking to you.
Sorry, the switch there where the mic was turning on, I lost all sound for a minute.
All good.
Thanks for having the space. I guess I and maybe this is not related at all, but what you said got me thinking about it. I'm gonna have to start my own website here pretty soon. I'm not even sure what I want to call it. I don't know if I want to call it the name of my book. I don't know if I want to call it planerunner.com. I haven't quite nailed that down yet. But do you recommend any particular, there's so many domain services out there. You've got Wix, you've got various ones. Is there one that you would recommend over another, or can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I recommend ownership, direct ownership, or as direct as you can get. When you're dealing with some of these other third-party things, and hosting even is third-party, it sucks, but it is what it is. Stuff happens. Now, I don't recommend Wix. I did web design for a long time. I try to not anymore, as you'll see, like from my personal domain. It's as stripped down as it possibly can be. No content management system, bare bones HTML, baby, let's rip. That is not what most people should be doing. I don't do it for my business site. I just do it for mine because I like it. That's on brand for me. That said, if you get pigeonholed into something like Squarespace or Wix, dangerous. There's been a little bit of upheaval this week in regards to WordPress even, and, a real drag because they are the backbone of so many websites. There are lots of places for you to find the way to buy a domain. What I would recommend is a place where you can buy a domain where you can also buy hosting, and you should host your own, website as well. This is where you get the most control. It is also subsequently going to be the place where you have to do the most work. Wix is really easy to spin up a website. It's also, not flexible long term. It's fine, but it's only just fine. And, again, like this is coming from me, who's like, well, my website's as utterly bare bones as I can possibly make it. Well, then you're like, well, what's the difference between that and Wix? Well, choice, that would be one of the differentiating factors. I do it by choice. They do it by design, against you learning and migrating out, because you can't, as I recall, and it's been a while since I worked on anybody's Wix site or Squarespace site, but you can't migrate your website out of their walled garden. You're locked into them. Whereas with WordPress, you could. With Drupal, you can. With Joomla, you can. These other content management systems, you can say, I don't want to work with this hosting company anymore. I'm going to take my ball and go dribble in a different court. So massively beneficial in that sense. But the amount of work it takes to spin it up is greater, but the autonomy is also greater. And for me, I would lean on the autonomy side. That's after doing this for a long time. That is what I recommend. And I'm happy to talk about it more. If you guys are looking for like insight or consultation into that, I'm happy to do it. We can talk about that if you want. I know that it's kind of an in-depth conversation. What were you saying, Heidi? Sorry.
Well, it's funny you said all that. I'll tell you this, Plane Runner. So I have a website that's like under my name, and it's all the things Michael said. I had to go with Heidi A. Hill as opposed to Heidi Hill because that was taken, right? So that's why I branded everything with my middle initial, part of the reason. But it's funny you said all of that because I had, there's WordPress.com and there's WordPress.org.
Yeah.
That's right. So I had a WordPress.com, which is exactly what Michael described, where it's really easy to get it up, but you're incredibly limited. And everything you want to do is like an extra charge. So it was really complicated. And I sort of was working with someone who she basically put a website together for me through WordPress.org, which it's everything Michael just said. It's like, yeah, I have total control over it, but it's also really complicated to use because it's not my forte. I'm not a web designer. But at the same time, as I go forward, I have all the room in the world to expand, even though it's kind of bare bones and some of it's not working exactly perfectly. So I don't know if that helps. But yeah, it's really hard to work with. Is my problem I have with it. But I mean, it's exactly what you said, Michael. And that's what she was telling.
WordPress is, I said, funny note here is WordPress is actually one of the easiest content management systems to work with.
I don't debate. I wouldn't deny it. I did preface this whole statement with, I'm not a web designer. I could probably figure it out. But like you said, it's like, how much time, do I have to do all the things I want to do? Always becomes the issue. That's why it suffers. Not so much that I'm a complete moron. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I can't figure it out. It's more just how much time do I have to put into this when I would rather be, say, writing or laying out a book or trying to get, or doing stuff on Twitter. I mean, it's just a matter of balance. It's like at some point, there are only so many hours in the day. But it's interesting you said that because I was half thinking of abandoning it. And now I'm like, well, I'm just going to hang on to it for those reasons you outlined, which is basically you can't grow on those other sites. Would you agree with that?
Well, I wouldn't phrase it as you can't grow, but you can only grow within the path that they allow you to within their walled garden. That's how I would phrase it. And that's a perhaps lengthy rephrase. But again, these are all issues that I've had to contend with over time with clients in some cases where it's like, well, they want you to do something. And it's like, well, what do you have for hosting? What are you built on? And then you are like, yeah, well, we can do that for you, but it's going to be, considerable amounts of work to do it. Or you only have this one particular integration solution and they wanted to work with some other solution. And it's like, well, those two things don't talk to each other. They're not friends. So you can either do a complete migration over to something else, or you have to choose to use this. And they're like, well, I'm already doing something over here with this other thing. And it's like, well, that's a choice that you made. And now, these are the limited selection of choices you now have because of these prior decisions that you have executed along the way.
Yeah, all of that's great. Thank you. This is an area that I have not jumped into yet. I'm still trying to get the book across the finish line, and
I would do this before that.
Okay, I will set my sights on that. Thank you.
Yeah. The reason why is because you're going to put the thing out. And then you're going to be like, oh, I got to do all this stuff because that enables me to do these other things. And you're going to want to do those other things immediately. But then you're going to have to circle back around to being like, oh, I need this domain and this website and XYZ and, such and such. Which is why I'm saying like, get those things moving a little bit too.
Cool. Hey, I'm just curious, since you guys know me, from the standpoint of just branding, would you recommend having something that is named after the book, or should I go with something more broad like my whole plane runner thing, or should I just put my name out there? What would you recommend in terms of the most? I don't know that I have time to run multiple places, so if I were to consolidate down to one. What do you think would give me the most bang for my buck?
Well, you just answered your own question. You just don't know it. So this is the thing. Do you intend to write more books?
Absolutely.
All right. Do you know what I'm telling you here?
I think you're going to go with an author name as my domain name.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I did, and I would do that too.
Okay.
You should have an author name out there, because everything, if you're only going to do one, which I'm only going to do one, because again, bandwidth, everything, it's like an umbrella where everything's underneath it, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know if anyone else has an opinion on that, but that's my opinion.
No, the opinion is correct right now, and opinions can shift as the now changes. So like I said earlier, right, who I am in terms of like my personal media projects is a constellation of these projects, right? You perceive me as this group of things. And some of those things need to have their own presence, right? The Chicago 1893 project, it grew to the point where it needed its own website, my marketing, the branding stuff, the advertising stuff, that needs its own thing. Exploring our national parks, perhaps it needs its own thing. My fiction work does not need its own thing. Individually, they do not need their own thing. As a collection, they do not need their own thing. They are perfectly fine being shelved under the Michael Finney constellation ephemera, right? That said, that doesn't mean that like a project doesn't grow beyond the boundaries of what we consider it to be at and whatever now we're at, right? When the Chicago 1893 project only had a book, it's fine. It doesn't need its own domain. Once it had a book and a documentary and a soundtrack and the merch thing and a social presence and, all the other stuff that it does, in terms of like engaging with organizations and other entities, it needed to have its own thing. So it just has to be a thing, and you might find that that's the case in the future for your stuff. Maybe Songless needs to have its own domain when you begin to write other stuff, or there's enough peripherals affiliated with Songless. That might be a thing, in the future. So yeah, at any rate, I asked if there were any final questions. I will pose that same question now, 15 minutes later. If there are any last questions or comments or thoughts or well wishes or curses, let us know.
I just want to say appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you came and hung out. Do this every 2 weeks. Put up the recordings on my podcast, available on all of your favorite streaming platforms like YouTube, Amazon. Wait, hold on. Everybody wants to request all of a sudden. We're going to bring you up. We're going to do it. We're doing it. We're hanging out. You caught me right under the wire. Gonzalo Schaff. Wait, no, he shifted back down. Gonzalo's connecting. Gonzalo is now connected. Hello, Gonzalo. Welcome to the stage. How are you doing? What are you up to? Tell us about it.
No, you said well wishes, so I just wanted to wish you all well. Say hey around the street, so it was a little loud and I was a little busy, so I wasn't able to join in the conversation, but I was able to listen.
Yeah.
So you said well wishes. So I was like, yeah, what's up?
Reasonable, fair.
That's all.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Schaff is coming up. I hope I'm.
Am I running? Is Michael talking?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Sorry.
Yeah, he's taught you. It's the spaces have been so weird. You look like a listener to me.
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
No, I heard him now. It's just that it looks like he was silent for a while, and I thought.
Yeah, your connection's getting a little bit wonky, but that's okay. Schaff, you're on stage. What are you doing?
Hey, I am at work and I'm on my phone, so the audio quality might be a little bad.
Sounds fine.
But thank you for hosting this space. I've been in and out as I've been helping customers at work, so I've been getting a lot of good tips. I was hoping maybe just give you kind of just a quick background on what I've been doing and maybe the best next steps, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's what we do.
So I'm a spoken word poetry artist, and I've seen quite a bit of success in the near 10 years that I've been performing. I've won many grants and awards. I've traveled across Canada representing my city in national competitions, but I'm having trouble understanding where to go from here so that I can make this a more regular gig. I'm not sure if I need to have like a book ready to go. Do I need a website ready to go? I'm familiar with SEO. I also work in marketing, but
There you go.
the next step for me is very unclear. I'm not sure what would be the best next thing for me to do.
I'm going to touch on the marketing thing first because you already know the answer. And the answer is yes, obviously. You need that. Now, the other piece I'm going to be a little more circuitous about. And when I was just a young boy, I was in a band and we were recording. Well, we were playing out a lot and we were playing out every weekend 2 or 3 times. And we had a friend of ours who was a producer who was working with a label. And he was like, well, you guys need to make a recording. And we knew that. We wanted to, in fact. His argument was, don't go on tour unless you have merch. Okay. Here you are on tour. You got no merch. Okay. You very well are probably getting paid for these appearances or having your costs covered, whatever the situation might be, or maybe it's all grant funded and, that's the compensation. But when it comes down to, connecting with fans, the audience, making it as lucrative an opportunity for yourself to continue doing it as possible, you need a merch table. You need, your books out there, your CDs, your t-shirts, all of that stuff available for people to more deeply connect with what you're doing. Whether that's like a collection of your writing, recordings of previous performances made available in specialty formats, or access to, the next level of your inner circle, a t-shirt with your name on it, a hat with your name on it, whatever it is, you don't want those things. You need to have those things. If you're on tour, you must have those things. Get those things. So that's the long and the short of it.
Thanks so much for your input. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love that analogy. Don't go on tour unless you have merch. And immediately, it was in my mind. It was the visual was very clear. I love that. It's like you can't. Yeah, it's like you don't have a T-shirt. Like you're going on tour, make some. Get some T-shirts made. The CDs. I did like about 10, 12, 13 now. 13 years ago, I participated in a children's play with one of my best friends. I was adapted and written by him and another friend, and I was one of the main characters. And it ran for about 2 months, and it was a big hit here locally. It was, the theater was packed, and the theater, one of the theater workers was basically told us they had never seen a children's play fill the theater. So it was a hit. It did really well. Obviously, we went in with tons of merch. We had actually we wanted to do more, but the biggest one was a ball that we had that my friend got made with the logo. It's like a ball from the world of the story. It was the main character was a spoiled princess who liked to play soccer, and she played for the team of the name of the town that she lived in. It's this fictional town, and we got these balls made especially for the story that had like the logo of her team on it. and they just flew. They like it completely sold out. Like the kids couldn't get enough of it. So that immediately brought me back to that. Like I can't believe how long it's been, but absolutely don't go on tour without merch.
Yeah, it's a must. Honestly, it's something that I think about all the time, and I would equate it to very much being on Spaces or whatever. When we're here, right, we're all friends. We like hanging out together. But in terms of the things that we're making, that we're doing, and that we're putting out into the world, we want people to appreciate them, and in some cases monetarily. That's fine. What anybody that's hung around me on social for any number of years, this is what you'll see. I am building in public. I basically release the first draft or some version of everything that I do for free. All of it has existed somewhere in some form at zero cost. You have to be attentive. You have to be distributed. I am distributed. My brand, the whatever that I am here on this the digital platform as the internet, this content layer atop the glass infrastructure of our telecom network. You can find me granulated all over them. But when I'm finished, when I'm ready to put it out there in a packaged format, I would hope that it is appreciated enough by enough people that, you want to open your heart and open your wallet, open your bank account and buy these things, and it's okay. I do the same thing. I buy people's books. I'm getting their records. I want this stuff. I'm a collector. I like owning things to, some degree. And then in other cases, for me, it's also about taking my flashlight and pointing it at the things that I like, doing the podcasts with people to promote the work that they're doing and help them with their SEO, right? In the sense that, like, give them a little bit of a boost around their name and their keywords and their releases, or doing a blog entry about their book where I'm diving into that material and putting my thoughts out about it and giving a backlink, So these are all, as much as I want people to engage with me, I need to reciprocate these things as well. I need to put out the electronic signals, these impulses across the network, move the light through the glass, as it were. And, hopefully that's perceivable in some capacity over time. Because first off, conversationally, here we are at an hour and a half, having a conversation. I like it. I like doing it. And then I like making it available on the other channels for other people to find. It's fine if you like recording it here on Twitter. And obviously, Heidi and I do that for Writer's Block because it is very much that community focused thing. This conversation is really meant to, first off, for a while, I didn't really know how I wanted to use Twitter Spaces. I had been doing social audio stuff years ago through Periscope and using Discord to pipe in a group of speakers to broadcast on, LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, whatnot. But I didn't necessarily know how I wanted to use Twitter Spaces with my account. I'd been doing Clubhouse with other people for a year or so. Also, book publishing and stuff like that, and other conversations and what have you. But when it came to Twitter, after having done what was called Party Line Chat, telecom reference, hello, I didn't know how I wanted to use this new tool. And then eventually, I was like, well, maybe I start to have these conversations around publishing and books. I used to have a co-host. His name was John. He would do them with me, and we'd do them every 2 weeks. Then, met all of you all, and now you're hanging out, and that's nice. Hopefully you find it to be a resource. Hopefully you find me to be a resource. Ideally you are both able to promote the work that you're doing, the things that you want people to engage with, and, taking something away from me and letting it roll around in your head. That's the social part of the social network, I like to think. But yeah, that's, we've been fairly in depth, I would say, about a slew of stuff today. Happy you guys got to come up here. Shaft, I know I've been kind of rambling or whatever, but any last thoughts, comments, ideas about stuff that you want to have on your merch table? Anything like that?
No, I think you've given me a good amount to think about, and I'm really grateful for that. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, I know what that means. So, if anybody wants to follow the making of progress story of a science fiction thriller or manga I'm writing, you can follow my account. And if you're in Web3 at all, if you guys know anything about Web3 and you're in Solana, I just got signed on to Drip, which is really cool, really exciting. My collectibles are there too. If you know anything about that, you can check out my bio and it's there too. That's my merch.
Hey, he's ripping.
Yeah.
Great talk today. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening. I don't know where you find yourself today. We are decentralized. We are distributed across the web, coming to you one person at a time to join this nice collective here on Twitter Spaces. I appreciate you taking the time, and we will talk again before too long.